Okay, we're starting on my favorite stuff, which is the nervous system. I will go ahead and give you a heads up that there is a lot of vocabulary and terminology in the nervous system that even a student who has had anatomy, maybe at high school or took a general anatomy and physiology class, this terminology is not very familiar to very many people. So I'm going to tell you that before you can learn the parts, you have to learn the words. So, first, let me start with the general functionality of the nervous system. And this is an oversimplification because there's no way you can teach the nervous system without oversimplifying. So, the nervous system is really one of the body's two control and communication systems. Information in, figure out what to do about it, information out to respond to it. The other system is the endocrine system, which we don't really cover very much in anatomy, but you'll cover in phys. So really what I want you to think about how the nervous system behaves is think about putting your hand on a hot stove and how you are going to know that that occurred and how you should respond and then the response that is commanded. So if you put your hand on a hot stove, you're going to send information in, okay? That is called sensation, and that is one of the nervous system's functions. So sensation is information in, but that didn't fix the problem. So the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to do what's called integration, and integration is processing the information. So you'll send it into your brain or your spinal cord, and your brain or your spinal cord will assess, generally subconsciously, hot, how hot, too damn hot. And when a response is necessary, and it is in that circumstance, the nervous system is going to command information to go out to a place that could effect a change. So information in, sensation, information processed, integration, and then command the response, which is motor activity. So tell my muscle what to do, tell my biceps brachii, my brachialis muscle to move my hand, okay? So information in, information processed, and information response. Okay, so that's the big picture understanding. Of course, it can be way, way more complicated than that. Like, how do you figure out if you want to go to school every day? Well, you have information in, and the information might be, oh, I would like to have a good job in the future, and also I already paid for it. And then information processing, but I'm really, really tired, and there's so many other things going on. And then information out is maybe you get your butt out of bed and maybe you don't. So it's not always just like stimulus response because, of course, our processing capacity gets pretty complex. But that's a good way to start thinking about it. The difference between the nervous system and the endocrine system is really that the endocrine system is slower acting and broader acting because it dumps hormones into the bloodstream instead of sending direct electrical signals to places in your body. Okay, so first, let's just talk a little bit about the organization, sort of the structural organization of the nervous system. So we have, let's do CNS and PNS first, and then we'll talk about white matter and gray matter. So the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system that you're seeing right here. The central nervous system is everything that's sort of this pinkish color right here. It's just the brain and the spinal cord, which are really complex in their structure. We will talk about their structure-function relationship in the next two sets of notes. Maybe one, I can't remember. But the brain and the spinal cord are really where all the information goes to and comes from. Okay, you may not be consciously aware of what's going on, but it's all going to and from your brain and your spinal cord. And of course, way back from the first set of notes, you know that the brain is located in which body cavity? It's the cranial cavity, and then the spinal cord is located in either the spinal or vertebral cavity. Either one of those is correct. Okay, so let's look at the brain a little closer. Just to get you some introduction. Oh, by the way, this is another cool photo of most of the nervous system, a dissection. Again, the brain and spinal cord are the CNS, and everything else out here, every nervous tissue that is not in the brain and the spinal cord is considered peripheral, like your peripheral vision on the side. peripheral nervous tissue. So this is the peripheral nervous system out here. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about white matter and gray matter. If we took the brain and we looked at it, what would we see inside of it? So generally speaking, when you look at the brain, and this is a bunch of things you don't need to know now, I just want to show you a couple of things. Do you see this darker tissue around the outside mostly? Okay. And there's even little chunks of it on the inside. And then this much, much lighter tissue. So this darker tissue is actually not gray when you're alive. It's actually pink because it's got so much capillary flow. But it's generally referred to as gray matter. And we'll look at what's in there in just a second. And then the lighter stuff is generally referred to as white matter, gray matter and white matter. So let's talk a little bit about what's in the gray matter, and we're going to talk about this in this whole set of notes. So what is in the gray matter, if I actually took a chunk of gray matter and looked at it, what I would find is, remember neurons were those starburst shaped cells? I would find a whole bunch of cell bodies of neurons, okay? And I would find dendrites and axons, but not tons and tons of myelinated ones. I know it's showing you a little bit because you're kind of in between here. And then I'd also find some glial cells. So gray matter has, the important thing is neuron cell bodies in it, okay? And then white matter is really, so I want you to think about the gray matter as like the processing power. Like it's doing all of the processing and decision making, not necessarily consciously, but little switches that are actually doing decision making. And what it needs is it needs wiring between the parts. So if all of this gray matter out here was doing yes-no decisions, then you would be able to carry information from this side to this side through the white matter. And the white matter is primarily myelinated axons. Do you see this white matter here? It is like it's wiring. Think of it as like a coaxial cable, like a cable made of cables. So white matter is primarily myelinated axons. And importantly, what is not generally in white matter is neuron cell bodies. So the neuron cell bodies are mostly out here, and then the white matter is carrying information to and from them. Okay? Okay, so let's stop there, and then I'll start the next one.